gonna come out and wet you.
There's a certain part of Wheezy that I really like. Yeah.
This list sucks. This list sucks. This list sucks. This list sucks. It sucks.
Hey,
welcome back.
we both did it at the same time. Yeah, I'm not just gonna keep talking.
Sorry, Mike. You go.
Oh, it's Friday. It's Friday.
Indeed, it is.
And we're back. Weird short week, but
yeah, it was, and a lot of long albums too.
That's okay. So thank you. Right. A weird week because there's a ton of hip hop in this week, but all of the hip hop records are really long. We have a triple LP from George Harrison, and by the time, I'm sure you felt this way, by the time that you got to Aerosmith, you had to have been like, fuck, thank God it's only like 36 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. I did that, and I did Drake both today. So, like, I mean, I had listened to him, but like in terms of my real dedicated listen.
So did you really do a cold listen for Drake?
I did a cold listen for most of Drake. I didn't do the whole thing. Whereas normally I have this rule where I do the entire thing at least once. Didn't go as hardcore.
I had this rule with Drake where I was not going to do that. And I'm so glad that I didn't. I listened to it once.
That's enough, really.
I did my duty. And
it was pretty in the background. I wasn't really paying attention to it. Like my cold lesson, it was like a real,
thank God.
Yeah. Secondary to whatever else was going on.
But. Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about it more whenever we get to it. But before we even jump into any of that, I want to say thank you because JB and Katie Joe were kind enough to give me for my birthday a record that I had not scored up to this point in time.
Luckily.
It is the fucking Dictionary of Soul, complete.
Lift it up just a little bit. There you go. Angle it.
By Otis Redding. Literally. So this is an album that came up on the list, what, like 465? 463?
Yeah. It was the week that Justin Handel's first week, I think.
I think that you're right. And
he had that one.
Completely fell in love.
Yeah.
Completely fell in love with this record. And it was one that I'd gone out onto Discogs because I wanted to get the vintage version of it. Like I didn't want to get a reissue. And I was looking at it, but I just never pulled the trigger on it. And so now I don't have to. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Happy to do it. Happy birthday.
Dude, thank you.
Scored it at Vinyl Cup. Shout out.
Shout out Vinyl Cup.
Local Des Moines record store.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah. Luke was very cool.
Thank you for providing us with quality records. And
Luke was like, wow, good timing. I just knocked this down $20 too when I picked that up. So I don't know if it was that day or like very recently. So
that is good timing. I also want to give a shout out to my wonderful wife who picked me up a plethora of really, really wonderful records this week too. She bought me a vintage copy of The Wall from Pink Floyd. She picked me up a vintage copy of the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers debut. She picked me up a record from this week, which I absolutely fell in love with, and that was All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. And she also picked me up a vintage copy of Sgt. Pepper's, which was missing from my fucking collection. So
that's amazing. That's a hell of a haul.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. Like every single one of those records rips, and I can't wait to listen to it. I've already spun the first disc on George Harrison. I did that before I came over tonight.
Nice.
Because I'm really high on that record, and I can't wait to talk about it because it's the bright spot.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say it's the only bright spot, but it's definitely one.
I mean, sea of darkness.
It's the brightest spot, right, for this week. And there's other stuff that I love, but
it's like the Lion King, but the opposite. Remember when he's like, you see, all this is yours except for that dark spot over there? It's like the opposite.
Absolutely. But it's Friday.
Yeah.
And I know that you were finishing up your list because we had a super short week. We recorded it on Monday. And shout out to Jen Stout. Thank you again, Jen, for coming on to the show. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks again, Jen. And we did pick a rough week to have a short week.
I know.
Like 4 of these 5 albums were over an hour.
And then George Harrison was a triple LP.
Almost 2 hours. Or
over 2 hours. I think it was over 2 hours. Yeah.
With the reissue was over 2 hours. I think the original was a little bit less. But either way, I mean, dude, 2 hours.
Yeah, it was a long time. So yeah, it was a brutal week to
Yeah.
have a short week. I was a little bit lucky because I was super familiar with the infamous Mobb Deep, so I didn't have to do a cold listen on that.
Right.
And I had cheated a little bit by doing a cold listen on All Things Must Pass. Granted, not the whole record, but probably 75% of that record on a walk from the previous week because I'd gotten a little bit ahead of myself. So,
that's good. It's good to get ahead.
Yeah.
And for those who can't tell on YouTube because the words are backward, it is Mike's birthday. So
wait, the words are backwards?
Yeah, dude, these are all backwards.
On purpose?
Sorry, YouTube. No, I mean it's looks forward to me, but it's backwards on YouTube. So sorry, guys. But wish Mike a happy birthday in the comments.
Oh, thank you, everybody. If you do it, and if you don't do it, well, I mean, whatever, fuckers.
Fuck you guys.
It is Friday though, and I definitely want to talk because I had worked myself ahead. And so I actually listened to a couple of new records today. There was a new Weezer.
I listened to that one too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your take? What'd you think?
Well, I mean, I didn't read about it at first and read that what it was, and I was like, wow, there's like a lot more like glam metal guitar work that I remember being in Weezer. Like it's almost like Dragon Force meets Weezer, you know,
yes.
like
Steel Panther type of shit.
Exactly.
Weezer.
Yeah. And I looked it up and it was like Weezer's interpretation of like stadium rock or basically hair metal.
Hair metal.
You know?
Yeah.
It was fun. I mean, it was
full
fun.
lifts too. Did you hear the Crazy Train? Like just the complete lift of the Crazy Train opener on one of the songs?
I did not catch that, but I only listened to like the first half of it.
Okay, so I want to say it was like track 7 or 8. I think there's 10 tracks on the record, and it was towards the back half of the record that it opens up, and I was literally like, "Holy fuck, they covered Crazy Train!"
It's just straight up Crazy Train.
Yeah. But then, as soon as like the opening riff of Crazy Train, where it would normally break into the, you know, like they completely just fuck it up and do something on
well,
their
that's
own.
fun. I kind of like that kind of thing.
I like it too.
They teased it basically.
They basically teased Crazy Train. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole record was fun. Like it was cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be one of my favorites or anything, but it's a fun idea that I'm glad they did something like that, you know. And the album cover is kind of dope. The
album cover is kind of dope, especially like if you do it on Apple Music, because Apple Music now has basically like they do animated cover art now.
That's cool.
On Apple Music. And so all of like the crazy lightning bolts and shit, when you listen to it on Apple Music, all of that shit comes to life.
That's
which is really kind of wild.
I wonder if they animated themselves.
That's a great question. The first one that I ever noticed it on was Paul McCartney 3, the most recent Paul McCartney album. And basically what they did was when you pulled up that record, the die that's on the record would spin. Which I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I've never seen that before on Apple. And now, depending on the artist, they're doing some really wacky shit. And Weezer it's fucking wacky what they're doing with it.
I wonder if they're going back and doing that with old records or if it's just with new stuff.
It's only with new stuff from what I can see. In addition to that, though, and Weezer was fun, but I kind of took a flyer on another record. And I'm curious, did you give any time to the Malfa tapes?
Who's that?
So the Malfa tapes, and I want to pull this up to make sure that I give credit. So the reason why I went ahead and took a listen to it is because one of the artists on, and it's not Malfa, it's Marfa, referring to Marfa, Texas.
With a PH or with an F?
Marfa.
Okay.
So Marfa, Texas is this place that's kind of known for like a lot of avant-garde artistry and like just kind of fashionista type shit that takes place out there. It's a really kind of cool. I mean, it's out in the West Texas desert where you've got like, it's almost like Sedona, kind of like, but in West Texas. So
weird. It's just like this little isolated town.
Yes. Yeah. But filled with a bunch of crazy artsy shit. Yeah. If you Google Marfa, Texas, like you'll understand why. Right. So it's called the Marfa tapes. The name that stood out to me was Miranda Lambert, right? I knew it was country because it's classified as country, but it's Miranda Lambert, Jack Ingram, and John Randall. I've never heard the names Jack Ingram or John Randall before. They strike me as Nashville songwriters is kind of what they come across. But it's 15 tracks. And I'm assuming that most of these are tracks written by either John Ingram or John Randall, although Miranda Lambert does her own version of Tin Man, which was one of the songs from The Weight of My Wings, which we listened to early on in the list back in like the 480s. It was one of the first records that we did.
Yeah.
That big double record that she did.
I do remember
this. I ended up listening to this album almost 3 times today because it's cut in a way. I genuinely believe that some of these songs were recorded around a campfire because you can actually hear, like, you can hear the sounds of like a campfire in the background.
Is it just acoustic guitar and vocals, or what is it? So maybe they just like sat around a campfire with a condenser microphone and recorded it. Yeah,
absolutely. And the male voices, both who did I say? John Randall,
Jack Ingram,
Jack Ingram and John Randall. They are spectacularly wonderful foils to Miranda Lambert. And I enjoy Miranda Lambert's voice. I enjoyed her voice when we did it on the podcast. And so that's why I went ahead and gave it a spin. But in addition to that, some of these songs are just really fucking fun. So there's a song on here called Homegrown Tomatoes. And literally, there's on a lot of these songs, there's almost outtakes at the end of it, right? Which lend credence to the idea that there's just this condenser mic with a couple of guitars and their voices. Because at the end of that song, they're kind of joking and they leave the tape rolling where they're like, what is this song about? Right. And then the other guy goes, well, it's about homegrown tomatoes. But the lyrics of the song refer to like this woman in a Bud Light tube top that is all kinds of trouble when she gets tequila in her and shit like that. I mean, it's really, I love it. I mean, I really, really loved it. Like I said, I got through it at least 2.5 times, and I'm going to go back to it. And in fact, if I can find this on vinyl down at Marv's, like if they released this on vinyl, I would absolutely pick it up.
Do they all sing on all the songs, or is it just a mixture?
So it's a mixture. So some of the songs are a combination of one of the men and Miranda. Some of the songs are both men and Miranda. Some of the songs are just Miranda.
Is it long?
No, not terrifyingly long. I mean, you got 15 cuts and it's 48 minutes. Okay. So every song is about 3 minutes. Waxahachie is a song that stands out that I really, really liked. Geraldine is only Miranda Lambert's voice, but I mean, she is fucking, man. I mean, she's really pushing it with her voice to the point that like you can tell that it's work for her to get like these choruses out.
Like high notes or what?
No, not particularly high notes, just the force behind the singing. It's forcing her voice to crack. She's doing it intentionally to create that sense of emotion in her voice. But again, they leave the tape rolling after the cut. And you know, she's like, man, that was really hard. You know, and the guys are like, yeah, but it's okay. It sounded good. It's that type of shit. And it's
just raw. It sounds like
it's really, really good. I'd highly recommend it to anybody. And especially for Rex Todd. Rex Todd, go out and listen to this, because I know that you think that I don't like country music just because I shit on Eric Church. This is the type of country music that I really, really love. Like, it's raw, it's real, it feels like just really true songwriting to me, and it's recorded in a way that is so endearing, because I almost got the feeling like I wasn't at the campfire with them, but I was just kind of sitting off to the side.
And that's kind of what a condenser mic does. Like, a condenser mic really just captures the feel of everything. I mean, well, I said that sounds kind of silly because that's what almost all things are recorded with. But if you just like set it up to capture a wider room and you don't use a lot of like sound, like a lot of noise suppression, you know, stuff. Yeah. You don't use a vocal booth and stuff like that. Then the condenser mic is just going to kind of pick up everything that goes on in the room. You know, I mean, I would be curious. I hope that you listen to it, because I would be curious as to your take as to how you think that they captured that. And again, what I would encourage you to do is to listen for everything in the background, because it's not on every song that you get kind of that campfire type noise,
But on the songs that you get it, man, it really stands out. And it sounds like 3 musicians sitting around a campfire singing songs that they love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. Highly recommended.
I will listen to it.
Definitely worth checking out.
I went down a bit of a Marfa rabbit hole on Wikipedia.
You?
Have you heard of the Marfa lights?
No, I have not.
It's these also known as the Marfa ghost lights, these strange light phenomenon that has been observed
In the desert.
in Marfa. Yeah. And it's just like, it basically says there's a favorite spot to view it. And they're just reported as distant spots of brightness, but that are easily distinguishable from lights or rain lights or anything. And they're pretty mysterious.
It sounds like a really cool place.
Yeah.
And now that I'm spending more time in Texas, I feel really fucking compelled to go out
Marfa.
and find Marfa.
Yeah, you should.
And just check it out at some point. So yeah, outside of that, I didn't listen to anything else new. Well, no, I take that back. I listened to a little bit. Rag and Bone Man released a new album today, and I was familiar with his debut a little bit, and I listened to probably 2 songs on his recent release, and it was just too I don't know.
What is it? Is it hip hop?
No, it's not hip hop. His first one I would classify probably as kind of a like a loose soul record. Kinda. Not really soul, but that's kind of the closest category that I might put him into. And this record for me, where I was hoping to get a little bit more of that feel, and there's a little bit of a soul feel to it, but it was too poppy for my taste.
There's a lot of like soul pop these days. Like it's kind of made a bit of a resurgence.
It has, and not all good.
Not all good.
Sometimes it really works.
I think it's Anderson East. I think he just released a new song a couple weeks ago that was pretty good, and it was kind of that vibe, like soul pop. But it was actually pretty good. So
you know what I heard? I heard on Hits 1 on Sirius XM, because my daughter forces me to listen to that frequently. Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak have come together and are releasing music together. And Bruno Mars writes.
That's interesting.
Bruno Mars does really catchy shit. And Anderson .Paak does really, really fascinatingly avant-garde stuff.
Yeah.
And when you put the two together, I actually really dug the song that I heard on
They just have one song out?
I mean, it looks like it's part of maybe a greater collaboration that they were doing together. And I kind of hope that it is, because if those two release an entire album, I will absolutely check it out. I might not love the whole thing, but I would absolutely give it a shot. And I'm going to look it up to see.
I like Bruno Mars, honestly.
I do too.
I think he's great. Who doesn't?
Silk Sonic.
That's the song?
That's what they call themselves.
Oh, that's cool.
They call
that's
themselves
a cool fucking name.
They call themselves Silk Sonic. Okay, so it is going to be an entire album. Bootsy Collins does a guest.
No way.
Bootsy does a guest appearance on it.
How old is he now?
Fuck, Bootsy's fucking old.
Gotta be in his 70s.
So I'm just looking at an article from Pitchfork, and it says Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak toured together in 2017. In the same year, they reportedly worked on material at Abbey Road with Disclosure and Nile Rodgers. Wow.
What's Disclosure?
Disclosure is a electronica act that worked with that's actually where Sam Smith got his big break, was on a song called Latch by Disclosure. They're basically DJs.
Okay.
A pair of DJs. DJ music. But if you've never heard Latch featuring Sam Smith, you should definitely check that out. Yeah.
Cool.
But you should also check out Silk Sonic. I mean, I'm trying to find the name of the song. That's what it is. It's, what the hell is this called? Leave the Door Open, I think is what this is called. I don't want to get us pulled from fucking YouTube. Yeah, Leave the Door Open. So check out Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic.
That's a really cool name, actually. I like that a lot. For some
I do
reason.
too.
Silk Sonic.
Well,
do you think there's
especially
any
those
Anderson
two
.Paak
coming
on the
together.
list?
No. I think we would have encountered it, right?
Maybe. I don't know. The recency bias thing, and people go crazy for Anderson .Paak records. There's like 2 of them that are really, really popular, right?
Yeah, Malibu is the name of one of them, and I'm trying to remember the name of the other one.
I wouldn't be entirely surprised, but we'll see.
I would only be surprised because at this point, man, we're pretty fucking high.
Yeah,
and,
you think you would have seen it by now.
Well, and I cheated, right? I looked through 350 tonight, and it doesn't appear in the next, in the next 15 that we haven't listened to yet.
I wonder if there's anything, this is just kind of a random off thought, but anything that was released in the last like 5 years in the top 100.
Fuck off.
There can't be, right?
No.
Okay, I hope not.
There's no way.
We'll see.
I mean, even take a stab at what that might be.
I have no fucking idea, but just knowing the way the list has been going so far and the, the fucking degree to which this list sucks.
Now, last 10 years, yes.
What would it be?
Kanye West.
Oh, yeah, duh.
My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was released in 2010. That is his best album, in my opinion, but my opinion happens to be categorically factual
as is mine.
In this particular instance. And I know that album has to be in the top 100. It has to be.
Probably. Yeah.
I think it has to be in the top.
Do you think it deserves to be there? Or you're just saying based on the way the list is going, you think that it's going to be there?
Well, so we know a couple of things. We know that Kanye has 6 records on this list.
That's true.
And we haven't even fucking encountered the first Kanye yet. And we're working
so
through
crazy.
And we're working through 365. How have we not gotten to fucking 808s and heartbreaks?
I just was thinking that, like,
right?
We have to have heard one by now.
We haven't.
So all the 6 are above 350. We know that at least.
Yes. Yeah, because I cheated because I looked through 350 tonight.
That's fucking crazy, I gotta say.
Yeah.
At least one of those should certainly be in the bottom 100. No doubt.
Yeah. Probably top 50.
Whatever.
Because as
top
much
50,
as even if you love 808s and heartbreaks, which I don't, I mean, it's fine. It's my least favorite Kanye album. How is that not? I mean, if you're going to put it on this list, which I would even debate, I don't even think that album belongs on this list. But if you're going to put it on this list, how is that not where Lil Wayne fits in?
Yeah. Or how is it not? When I meant bottom 100, like one.
Yes,
if there's going to be 6. There, one of them should be in the bottom 100
right?
for sure.
Yeah,
that seems insane.
In the last 20%.
How many records does he have? Does he only have 6?
No, he has like 12.
Okay, gotcha.
He's got a bunch.
Okay,
and there's going to be some that don't appear on this list that I think is criminal. And my son would agree with me on this. One of my favorite Kanye records is Yeezus, and Yeezus is not going to be on this list. I can almost promise you.
So it's going to be Graduation. It's going to be
Graduation,
808s and Heartbreak.
Late Registration.
Yep.
808s and Heartbreaks.
Fantasy.
Yeah,
and
My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. College Dropout.
Oh, duh. Yeah. That's the one with Jesus Walks, right?
Yes. I think so. I don't listen. Those first 3 Kanye albums, I'm not intimately familiar with. Yeah, they kind of bleed together. I mean, I am familiar with Graduation. Graduation is the one that I have the most familiarity with. Between Late Registration and College Dropout, though, like I think College Dropout, I don't even know which fucking one comes first, honestly. And one of those has like Diamonds of Sierra Leone on it, and some other bangers. But either way, you definitely have those 5. And then the question becomes on that 6th one, is it going to be, is it going to be Life of Pablo? Is it going to be Yeezus?
Because it could be Yeezus.
If it was Yeezus, I would actually love the fact that they put Yeezus on this list, because that album is really, he went fucking out there. I mean, he went on a thin branch when he fucking produced that album.
Mm-hmm.
And like his use of Nina Simone on Blood on the Leaves it's fucking magic, dude. Like that to me is where Kanye works the best, when he's really pulling just crazy shit and mixing it into his raps and into hip hop. Like that's to me was where he is the most genius.
He's super inventive, that's for sure. No one can take that away from him.
And in a lot of ways, I think Yeezus may have been the epitome of that. Even though My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is factually his best album. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good one for sure.
Yeah.
I remember when that came out, actually.
Yeah.
That's like the one track where I like Bon Iver, actually. because there's a Bon Iver track.
There
on
is
that,
a Bon Iver track on there.
Lost in the World. It's a good tune. Really, really.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, not because of Bon Iver, because of Kanye.
It's auto-tuned Bon Iver, even.
Well, there's no such thing as non-auto-tuned Bon Iver.
I've kind of blocked Bon Iver out in my memory, so I have no memory of Bon Iver. Who?
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Huh? Who?
All right, we should get into it.
Let's jump.
So here we go. Picking back up on the Rolling Stones list of the 500 greatest albums of all time.
Mhm.
Back at number 370, which is me today, I believe.
Yes,
Okay.
it's going to be.
Okay. All right. 370 is Lil Wayne, The Carter 2 from 2005.
Holla.
On The Carter 2, Lil Wayne anointed himself the best rapper alive and drove himself insane trying to make good on his declaration. He demolishes the same beat 3 ways, fly in, or parenthetically, fly in, Carter 2, and fly out. Is that the same beat? Is that what you're laughing at?
No, I didn't know that, but honestly, those 3 songs,
Those were the ones that you told me before we started that you said you liked
how
the
much
best.
I loved. Yeah,
Yep.
so that's funny. I'm sorry.
No, that's funny. Yeah. Like a Michelin-starred chef using every part of the animal and drops 106 and Park jams, parenthetically, fireman and shooter with ease. I deserve the throne, he raps on Hustler music. And if the kid ain't right, then let me die on this song. 2 years later, Wayne was alive and, well, the throne was firmly secured.
So they're saying by 2007, Lil Wayne was the greatest rapper alive.
Fuck that noise. I'm just going to say that right off the bat.
Okay, so was there anything about this album that you liked?
Well, I liked that it was better than the Drake album that's coming later today. You know, this one, on the first listen, I have to say I really just kind of hated it. I was annoyed a couple songs in, and it just kind of clouded my vision going forward. Second listen, especially in the latter half of this, there were some songs that I actually dug, but I just don't think I'm personally a big fan of Lil Wayne's voice.
Yeah,
It's kind of annoying to me. It comes across like almost whiny, and it's like he sounds.
he's
I don't
wheezy.
know. It's definitely wheezy, but it's also just it doesn't work. It doesn't sound like I don't know. I'm trying to put it into words. It sounds thin and like tinny to me.
Yeah,
like borderline prepubescent at times.
Oh man,
Come on, Lil Wayne. Seriously.
I have loved Lil Wayne for a long time as a feature artist on songs. Like the Chance the Rapper song. Fuck. What the fuck is that song from
I know what you're
Chance the
talking
Rapper
about.
on Chance the Rapper 3? Lil Wayne does an appearance on God damn it. I'm gonna look it up. So you're gonna have to talk.
No, you go ahead.
Look this up.
And what I was gonna say is maybe that was just so good because Chance the Rapper is so fucking good. And there's a possibility we see some of him on the list too.
No problem.
That's the song.
Yeah, the
Okay.
song "No Problem" from Chance the Rapper is the second track on Coloring Book, and that might be one of my favorite feature spots of all time. I love Lil Wayne as a feature, and so I'd never dug into his catalog. This was the first full Lil Wayne album that I'd ever listened to, and I didn't hate it because I don't dislike his voice. I kind of like Probably Drive You Nuts about his voice.
Yeah.
But I will say this, on balance, this record is fine. And there's plenty of tracks that I starred. I laughed because it doesn't even occur to me until they said it there that that he used the same beat on Fly In, Carter 2, and Fly Out. All of those songs I really dug. In fact, Carter 2, I put 3 stars next to. I really, really dug that. And Fly Out, I put 2 stars next to, and same with Fly In. And all of those songs, the thing that I loved about them is that they didn't have a hook. I mean, Carter 2, I believe, did have a hook in it, but Fly In and Fly Out didn't have any hooks. It
It's
was
just rap.
literally just him rapping. And I love that. Like, that to me is where he works best, which is probably why I really enjoy him as a feature.
Yeah, because you just get to hear his verses.
Yeah, I just get to hear him. I get to hear his flow, which I find his flow really enjoyable. And I kind of like I enjoy what he typically raps about because it's not the usual, it's not the Drake Which
it's not that much better though. I mean, it's mostly he mostly raps about money.
Yeah,
and that's how that's all he's living for. And
money,
I guess he doesn't
bitches.
rap about as many bitches as Drake raps about, I guess, or about. But I mean, they're kind of saying the same thing too. Like they're saying a lot of how they're the best and how they got where they are and no one can take that away from them and all that.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got a line on Money on My Mind, which is a third track where he says, "Dear Mr. Toilet, I'm the shit." And it's that type of stuff. Like I find him just really funny and
he's definitely witty
and inventive.
There's some witty lyrics for sure.
Yeah.
And even on like Money on My Mind, something I wrote was like decent flow to his voice for sure, but it just almost sounds kind of the way he raps sounds lazy to me. I don't know. It's like behind the beat, but not in like a strong way. It just kind of comes across kind of tired and lazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's just because I don't like his voice, like I said, but so it could just be that his voice is not my thing, and it's just kind of coloring every other thought I have.
And it's funny that you say that because we're gonna get to Drake, and we've already spoiler alerted the fuck out of the fact that we really dislike Drake. And what kills me about Drake is his voice and the fact that I'm assuming that that's Drake's voice, but I wouldn't know because every fucking part of that goddamn album is auto-tuned.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate auto-tune. God damn it, I hate auto-tune. But anyway, we'll shit all over Drake here in just in a few minutes. I don't want to belabor this point. What song did you put stars next to any songs?
Yeah, definitely. Right. I like Hustler music.
Yeah.
There was kind of a cool hook on that one. Which was like the second single, and in my opinion, that was a lot better than Fireman, which was the first single.
Yeah, and Fireman, I wasn't fucking crazy, but I honestly I hated the hook on Fireman.
Yeah, it was really annoying. I agree with you.
The beat though, I enjoyed a lot of the beats on this record.
Yeah, I said the same thing about Fireman. I dig the beat.
But the hook was so fucking lame on Fireman.
The hook was lame, and the sirens that just go on throughout the entire song get really old. But Hustler music, I liked that one a lot. That was good.
Yep.
I liked Receipt a lot. Really cool sample. It's been stuck in my head all week, though. Hold on to my receipt. Which I think is Isley Brothers.
Yes, it was the Isley Brothers.
I actually dig that a lot.
And I made the same note. It was a cool sample with the beat, right? The beat and the sample made it really, really cool. But the hook felt kind of corny to me, And I loved the beat and I loved the sample.
The hook was kind of corny. The hook where he was like, you talking about his hook or where he said, I wrote it down. He said, kind of hard saying this shit to your face, so I do it over snares and bass.
Yeah.
Which he's trying to come across as hard. That doesn't sound very hard to me. It sounds like he's kind of bitching out, and not willing to say something to someone's face. Although I do think he's harder than Drake. But Shooter, I liked that one a lot with Robin Thicke.
Oh yeah. And I'm not the biggest Robin Thicke fan, but I agree with you. I dug his feature on that. I actually
like
dug his feature a lot. Yeah.
There were horns on that one, so I figured you liked that one.
Yes, of course.
I liked Wheezy Baby.
Wheezy Baby,
really cool beat on that one.
It was super unconventional with his flow, right?
Yeah.
I made a note about how his flow was. It just seemed so. It was unconventional. It was strange, but I loved it. I thought
song
that it worked
felt
well.
Pretty old school to me, which I liked a lot.
Okay.
And that had like a female vocal. I can't remember who it was, but there was like a hook done by a female voice. I can't remember who it was. I didn't really get the skits on this. I don't really feel like they added a whole lot to the record.
Didn't. They were fucking goofy.
The first skit was him just being kind of a jackass, and he was like talking about people come up to him with cameras all day, every day, and he's like,
and how they want to battle rap him.
He was like, this guy was trying to battle rap him, and he was like, well, how much money are we going to make? How much money?
Yeah,
like, dude, you're just an asshole. And just the fact that he was like, I'm used to this all day, every day. People come up to me with cameras. Whatever, dude. Probably true still. But
did you notice the sample on Best Rapper Alive?
Ooh, what track was that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was the 7th track right after the very first skit.
Oh, thanks. Was it the crowd vocal sample? What was that from?
So, no, it wasn't necessarily the crowd. He actually sampled Fear of the Dark by Iron Maiden.
Oh, okay.
There's an Iron Maiden sample in that song.
That's pretty cool.
It was fucking cool. I mean, it was cool. And the sample worked exceptionally well with the tone and tenor of Wheezy's voice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The beat was good, but that Iron Maiden sample was clutch. I was a fan.
And like you said, there were definitely some witty lines, but just the constant, almost every other song is about money and about how that's the only reason why he's doing it. And like when he gets to Feel Me, I wrote down, we get it, you like money, you know? And it's like, it got me thinking, and this is like, it's definitely a thing that's unique to rap music. Like no other genre of music do they just talk about how, like, imagine like if my band put out a song where we're just like, yeah, we're just doing this for the money. You know, we don't really give a fuck about, you know, anything else. Like that would not go over well. You know what I mean?
A jam band that's just about the money.
Yeah, we don't care about the music. We're just doing it for the money.
Fish releases new track this week. It's called Skrill.
Exactly. It'd be so funny though, you know? You can't get away with that notion in any other genre of music, you know?
No, not even in metal. I mean, in metal, you can get away with like strippers and kind of like strippers and hoes a little bit in metal, but it's definitely going to be about just how you're, I mean, much like rap, right?
It's like the
just
rock
about
star
how you're
lifestyle.
yeah, but it's a rock star lifestyle. It's not.
But like rappers can just literally say in their songs that all they care about is money. It's all they think about. Like that's a line that's in almost every song on the Drake record, you know, and it's just kind of silly.
It is. Okay. So does this record belong on the list? I mean, you did not add it to digital. You're not going to look for the vinyl.
I didn't, again, like this is not like, I'm not absolutely opposed to this record in general. I don't think it should be on the list. No, but I didn't hate it. You know, I didn't hate it as much as I hated the Drake record that we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah.
Like I said, especially the latter half. I don't love his voice. That's out there, but there were some decent tracks.
Yeah.
So
I'm not against this being on the list, but the idea that this album is in front of All Eyes on Me by Tupac is fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think I texted you that earlier in the week.
Yeah, you did. If you flip-flopped this with All Eyes on Me, I wouldn't even know. I don't even think that I would hate that much. But realistically, this record belongs where Juvenile is, and Juvenile can probably just fuck off and just fall off the list entirely. And Tupac should be at 370 in my book,
or higher. Yeah,
or higher. And so again, I didn't dislike this. I mean, to me, there were plenty of tracks to go through on the list, which actually at the end of the show, JB and I will talk about. At some point in time, we will give you the one track to listen to on this record.
Yes.
That's a little project that we'll preview at the end of the show. But I didn't hate it. I like Wheezy's voice. It works for me. Like I said, it's always worked for me when I've heard him on features. And now that I've heard an entire album, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. And my question to you is this the only Lil Wayne album that we see on this list?
I hope so. Just because I don't think there should be more than one, you know, but like I got into the Carter 3 in high school. And I would have preferred that one, you know, but maybe it's just because it's got that throwback for me. But at this point, like I don't want two, so I definitely hope it's the only one on the list. You know,
right.
I could see replacing the Carter 2 with the Carter 3, but I don't think I want. Do you think there's gonna be another one?
Yeah, I do.
Which one? The Carter 3?
Yeah, the Carter 3.
If
I had to hazard a guess, I didn't add this to digital. No offense, Wheezy. I'm not gonna hunt for the vinyl. No offense, Wheezy.
Definitely not. You want to read Rex's thoughts?
I'll let you read Rex's thoughts because I don't have Rex's thoughts.
Okay. Yep, no problem. So Rex Todd on Lil Wayne. Bold choice, Rolling Stone. We'll see about that. Classic sounding and impressive beats that got all of us loving Lil Wayne. I'd prefer to listen to the Carter 3, better beats and better lyrics. I see why it's on the list. This spot belongs to someone else, but I'm okay either way with this album. It's a solid record.
All right.
Yeah.
I kind of like I'm kind of in Rex's camp. But like I said, I would replace Juvenile with this, and I would move Tupac up to this spot.
That sounds reasonable.
And I think Rex hated Tupac.
What?
I'd have to go back and revisit that. I can't remember if he hated it or not.
That sounds crazy.
All right.
Let us know, Rex.
Yeah.
Text us.
Let me know. I got my phone. All right. Should we move on?
Yeah. Let's
do it, because I can't wait to talk about number 369 from 1995, The Infamous by Mobb Deep. Rolling Stone says, quote, "We were just straight hood," Havoc said. "It wasn't no pretty boy shit. He was talking about the Timberlands and bandanas he and Prodigy, RIP, wore, but that was also the brutal appeal of their second album, which the duo produced mostly by themselves. Q-Tip functioned as an executive producer, adding depth to sinister tracks built off of 1970 samples, many of them from the LP collection that Prodigy's jazz musician grandfather left to him. Shook Ones Part 2, a minor hit, and Survival of the Fittest have only one impetus: to document the life in a Queens project." Please tell me that you fucking loved and adored this record, because you had never heard it before.
Never heard it before, and I did love it. I thought it was fantastic.
Raw as fuck.
Super raw. Yeah, just like you pretty much said it. Like, this is when you were talking about the ones that you liked about Lil Wayne, the ones that didn't have hooks and stuff.
Yeah.
And not that there's no hooks on this, but that's kind of how I felt about this. This is a rap record. You know,
Yeah.
They came to rap, and that's what they're doing the whole time. The beats are not overly complex, fairly minimal production, but that really, really slaps. Like, the beats are really, really
The beats
great.
are fucking good.
But they're not overly convoluted or
No.
and there's not a lot of production.
Nope.
There's not a lot. It's just like they kind of lay down the beat, and then from there on out, it's just rapping over it, and the beat is grooving.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And the style between Havoc and Prodigy are so similar that, and I've listened to this record a bunch of times. I've listened to this record probably 50 times, and I still have I don't have the easiest time of distinguishing when it's Havoc versus when it's Prodigy. But at the same time, I kind of love that about the fact that the two, to me, are so close in their sound and in their flow that it makes it more cohesive to me.
I'm glad you said that, because I wasn't familiar with any of these guys, obviously, like you already said. It's something I wrote down on Give Up the Goods, which is the first big Noid feature.
Mhm.
Was I don't know who's who, because I'm not familiar with the voices, but I love them all. That's what I wrote down,
Yeah. The beats, as you were saying, like lots of samples from 1970 stuff, but the samples are used so incredibly brilliantly, and it just works with what they're doing. This album reminds me, and it should make sense that it reminds me of this. It really reminds me a ton of 36 Chambers, like super fucking raw raps that are coming from extremely talented MCs put behind a really, really handsome collection of beats.
Yeah. Yep. You summed it up right there. It's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's how I felt too.
What stood out to you? What were your favorite tracks?
There were a lot.
Yeah.
Survival of the Fittest was probably the first one that really, really stuck out to me. Although I liked the Start of Your Ending.
Yes.
From right off the bat.
I mean, I put 2 stars next to Start of Your Ending, but Survival of the Fittest, 5 stars.
Yeah.
Not even any question.
I loved the next one. Eye for an Eye. Your beef is mine.
5 stars.
Solid fucking hook on that too. That was with Nas and Raekwon.
The features, that's what I was just gonna say.
There's
Nas,
some badass features on
dude.
this.
Nas and Raekwon fucking tear that shit apart.
Yep.
On Eye for an Eye.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I like I was just kind of reading my thoughts on that, like the flow of the main two guys on that, because I was pretty sure I could identify the main two guys on that one.
Yeah.
Because I knew Nas and Raekwon's voices. They were fantastic on that one too. Again, I don't know which one's which. Temperatures Rising, I liked that a lot. Really solid. Crystal Johnson feature. She was like the female vocalist, right?
Yeah, that sang the hook. Yeah, she's saying the hook on it.
I liked that one a lot. I liked Trife Life.
Mm-hmm.
And in the latter half of the record, Cradle to the Grave was really, really fantastic.
Cradle to the Grave is so good.
Drink Away the Pain was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I starred most of the songs on this record.
Yeah.
Almost every one. I mean, there's like a couple that I didn't, and I'm wondering if I just like forgot to or something because I liked all of them.
So to me, and when we get to trying to find one song in this record, it's going to be really tough because Survival of the Fittest, Eye for an Eye, and Shook Ones Part 2. And Shook Ones Part 2, by the way, was like the only single that was really released from this. And Shook Ones Part 2, the chorus of that, it actually gets repeated in Survival of the Fittest. And that's the line where they say, there ain't no such things as halfway crooks. You're scared to look, scared to death, you're scared to look, you're shook. There ain't no such things as halfway crooks. And that particular line, there ain't no such things as halfway crooks, like that. And I mentioned this to you in a text, like there are just indelible fucking raps from this record that appear over and over and over again. And that particular rap of scared to death, you're scared to look, you're shook, you ain't no such things as halfway crooks. Like that song actually, or that line actually appears from 8 Mile, like at the very last rap battle that Eminem does in 8 Mile.
It's from him. He says it.
Well, he sings that line, and it's a shout out to Mobb Deep. And it's one of those lines that when rappers perform live, when the crowd senses that that's where a flow is going, that's one of those lines that an MC will hold out the mic, right? You're scared to death, you're scared to look. And then they'll hold out the mic so that way the entire crowd will sing ain't no such things as halfway crooks, right? Because it's just that, like, it's ingrained. It's like it's stamped in the history of rap. And so the fact that you get that, and then it comes, and this is where it's from, right? This is the genesis of that line.
That's insane.
It is insane. It's insane because again, you can see it time and time again. And if you go to a lot of rap shows, you'll see that line because it's just
comes up a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the classics, right? It's one of the classic fucking lines from any rap group.
Yeah.
And from the history of rap. And this is the genesis.
So it's one that the people pay respect.
Absolutely.
To. The reason I was looking at my phone here is I remember Justin Handel, common guest on the podcast. He had texted me and said that he wanted us to make sure we definitely talked about all the producers that were on this as much as the rappers. As much as, you know, what is it? What are the two guys? What are their names?
Havoc and Prodigy.
Havoc and Prodigy. Yeah.
Which, by the way, so Havoc and Prodigy they have most of the production credit on here. But like, as Rolling Stone mentioned, the executive producer and kind of the silent hand behind this was Q-Tip.
Q-Tip.
From Tribe Called Quest.
Q-Tip and then the Abstract. He comes up on several tunes.
Okay. That's Q-Tip.
That's Q-Tip?
So the Abstract was a pseudonym used by Q-Tip for the production of this record.
I love it.
So literally anywhere that you see the Abstract, that's Q-Tip.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Q-Tip's contributions to the album were credited under his alias, the Abstract.
That's right.
How did you find that out? Were you just reading through it or what?
Yeah. And so that's the other part to this, right? Especially when you listen to the beats, because that's to me where I hear that Tribe influence from Q-Tip is the beats and the way that the beats are put together. When you realize that the Abstract is Q-Tip, all of a sudden, like all these pieces come together and you're like, oh, well, fuck. Well, that's why this not only sounds so great, but it's also almost instantly familiar whenever you hear it.
Definitely. Yeah. But I mean, I love this shit. This is great. I added it to digital for sure.
Yeah, I already have it.
You already had it on there?
Yeah.
Do you have it on vinyl?
No, I wish.
Yeah.
If the day that I fucking see this on vinyl, you bet your ass I'm going to snap it up.
Nice.
You bet your ass.
Yeah. I'm glad I got introduced to these guys.
Yeah.
Do they have a lot of other records that you like, or is this is mainly the one that you know?
This is the jam.
Okay, cool.
This is the jam. In fact, I've spent probably less than an hour with any of the other stuff that Mobb Deep put out. At one point in time, Prodigy and Havoc had a little bit of a beef. Like there was some breakup, and Prodigy's gone now. He died in 2017. Complications from, I want to say complications from some type of autoimmune disease, but
that's too bad.
But either way, Dude, this fucking record, if you've never exposed yourself to the infamous Mobb Deep and you even remotely enjoy hip hop, just fucking do it because it's absolutely worth it. What do you think about its placement? And again, like this was your first exposure to it. So is this one of those that you say that you're comfortable with where it's at? Or do you feel like
I'm happy where it's at?
Yeah.
How about you?
I am too, and it's tough because I love All Eyes on Me. Like we continue to talk about the snub of that placement of that record.
Definitely, but I don't want to replace this with that. I am unhappy with that record's placement for sure. It should be much higher, but I think that should be higher than this for sure. But I think that this is good where it's at, in my opinion.
If it I don't want to see it move down, and if it moved north of 350. I wouldn't be upset by that because again, I think about this every bit. I feel like this record had every bit the influence that 36 Chambers did and every bit the influence that Illmatic had. And I think that Illmatic and 36 Chambers are going to be way fucking higher than this record. And that's the one downer to me that, you know, to me, all three of those records, 36 Chambers, Illmatic by Nas, and the infamous Mobb Deep, they should be, in my mind, they should be within 50 of each other. And I think Illmatic and the 36 Chambers are going to be substantially higher than where they've placed Mobb Deep.
Which do you think is higher, Illmatic or 36 Chambers?
36 Chambers.
You think so?
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah.
That was, come on, dude. Come on. 36 Chambers that should easily be top 100. I think I could make an argument for top 50.
So then you think that this should be top 100 too?
No, but I could see this being at 150. Like if 36 Chambers is 55 and Illmatic is 115 and this was 175, I wouldn't be upset by that.
Oh, you meant each one within 50 of the next one. I thought you meant all three of them in the same group of 50.
No, within 50 of each other, though.
Yeah.
Because they all influenced each other, too.
They had to.
If that makes sense. You know.
When did Illmatic come out?
Prior to this, I want to say 1994.
90, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It came out basically a year before this.
The day before 420.
Yeah. And then 36 Chambers was, I think, 1992.
I can find that out too.
Yeah, I know. You're getting ready to type
fucking
away.
Fact checking machine over here, dude.
I might be wrong on that.
Pre-lube those fingers up. They're ready to go. 1993.
Oh, okay. Yep. 93. Yeah. So 93, 94, and then 95. And that's the thing. Like they were all so close to being on top of each other, but the rawness and the realness of all those albums it's absolutely undeniable. So good on you, Rolling Stone. At least you have it on here.
This was definitely a good pick. I'm glad. This is one of the highlights of the week for sure for me.
Yep. Yeah, not the biggest highlight, but let's get to that.
Should we get to that? Yeah. Okay. 3-6. Oh, let's read Rex's thoughts before we move on.
Thank you.
Okay. Infamous Mobb Deep from Rex Todd. Fuck yes. Beats that remind me of De La Soul. Deep sociocentric writings, brilliant rhymes. Rest in peace, Prodigy. Survival of the Fittest is such a strong track and my favorite song. There are so many talented artists on this album. It's ridiculous. This is a 3-listen album. I've loved this since college. Buy it immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen, Rex.
Pretty much saying a lot of the same stuff that you are.
It's a fucking jam.
Yeah.
It's a jam. Speaking of jams.
Speaking of jams, 368. George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. After the end of the Beatles, the quiet one suddenly looked like the one best prepared for the solo life. After years of writing in the shadow of John Lennon and Paul McCartney, George Harrison had enough songs saved up to make his solo debut a triple album, featuring friends like Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, and Ringo Starr. All Things Must Pass is full of spiritual guitar quests like Isn't It a Pity and My Sweet Lord, the first #1 hit to include Hare Krishna chant.
All right. So we talked about, we had a guest on for the Grateful Dead Circle Jerk. I feel like this is getting ready to be a 2-man circle jerk. on this George Harrison album.
That's all you need is two.
And
circle jerk.
I'm completely fine with this. I want to start with that line where they talk about this fucking triple album is a who's who, right?
Yeah.
To the point that I couldn't even find credits about when Dylan or Clapton or any of the other fucking 30 different phenomenal studio musicians that appeared on this record, which track they were even credited to.
You mean me neither? Because I remember reading through like the personnel, and I don't remember seeing Eric Clapton on there. I don't even remember which one he was on.
He's on multiple tracks on here.
Is he really?
Yeah, because apparently when they were recording this record, like they were recording with multiple bands, and it literally just turned into okay, everybody, let's fucking pile in and let's record this. And everybody fucking piled in and recorded it.
So it's much less a feature and more just like, hey, can I play on a few songs on your record?
Yeah, or can I play on half of this fucking record?
Yeah.
You know? But they were all, for the most part, they were all written by George, with the lone exception of, did you notice the writing credits from Dylan? Dylan had 2 different writing credits.
He helped with I'd Have You Anytime, and there was one that was just him.
Yes, exactly. Solo him. And I'm trying, and I don't.
If Not For You. Yeah, I wrote it down, but this is a
you.
Dylan song.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah.
Did you love the harmonica in that one?
So here's what I wrote. I was loving that song. And I still end up loving it, you know, but I was like, oh, ragtimey piano, organ. And I wrote, damn it, harmonica. They had to go there. And then I wrote, not entirely bad. It's negotiable.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad. I mean, it's George Harrison. He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
How about he just writes a triple album worth of indelibly wonderful, beautiful, emotionally beautiful songs? How about that?
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you. But there's an interesting conversation to be had there, because so he's kind of credited as this is considered the best album of the solo releases post Beatles. You know, it's even considered better than Imagine, I think. Like
you think so?
I was kind of reading that, like,
because we haven't run across Imagine yet,
which I'm sure it's gonna be on the list, even just because of that one song, you know.
And even Double Fantasy, like we haven't seen Double Fantasy yet.
Yeah. Yep. But like even in this Wikipedia article here, it says that, you know, this is widely considered to be the most successful of the solo releases post Beatles, you know?
Yeah.
And there's that, like I said, there's a conversation to be had there, because is that just because of the fact that most of these songs he would have released with the Beatles and they just didn't let him, you know, and I love this record, so don't get me wrong, but
it's a Beatles record, right?
It's basically, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is essentially it's a bunch of songs that he wrote for the Beatles, and not all of them, but like I would bet at least, like, you know, a third or a half of them he wrote with the intention of releasing them with the Beatles, and Paul and John were like, no, not on this one, maybe next record, you know, and he just kind of saved them up, and that's why he had a triple LP, you know, worth of music right after the Beatles broke up.
And quite frankly, I'm glad.
Yeah, me too, because he really came into his own here, you know.
This is spectacular in every sense, you know. Even the third portion, like the third LP, if you will, just the jams, right? And it's literally called like Apple Jams.
Yeah,
is what the third record is called, and it's this collection of incredibly talented musicians that are just getting together and fucking ripping. But how about Out of the Blue? Holy fuck, right?
Yeah, that was one of my favorites off of that one. That was like, it's almost like a funk tune. The bass, or the drum part on that was super cool. It's basically a funk tune, instrumental, super spacey, psychedelic in the middle of it.
Super spacey. Like you get this weird kind of open air jam that's going. It's 11 and a half minutes, I think. And in the original collection, this was the very first song on that third album.
On the third LP.
Yeah. And all the rest of them are very derivative. So when you think about Plug Me In, I Remember Jeep, and Thanks for the Pepperoni, all of those songs to me sounded like they were part of the same recording session.
So Thanks for the Pepperoni is basically just Johnny Be Good, right?
Yes.
That's all it is, just a cover of Johnny Be Good, instrumental.
Yeah, instrumental.
And then I Remember Jeep is basically another kind of funky jam, 2 chords the whole time, but that was really cool because it was long, and in the middle of it, George, I think it was George, maybe it was Eric Clapton, I don't know. George and the piano player were really playing off of each other, and like they were copping licks off of each other, and repeating stuff back to each other, having a musical conversation. They were jamming. It was a jam. You know? And I was kind of wondering, like I wrote down on a couple of tunes, I wonder who the second guitar player it is. It had to be Eric Clapton. It had to have been
Clapton.
Yeah.
That's what my assumption was going into it as well. But that was I absolutely adored that about the third, like the last trimester or whatever of this particular album, right? When you get into the jams, I mean, listen, we're both fans of Phish, like we're both fans of the Grateful Dead. And this is like a Beatles version of that.
Yeah.
In my mind, you know? And I mean, it's not the same. They don't get really weird. Like they never deviate dramatically. They don't get really from weird. The melody.
It's more like there's a soloist and they're soloing, but not on I Remember Jeep. I mean, they're playing off of each other and stuff. But like you said, out of the blue, they really get kind of psychedelic and spacey in the middle of it.
Very much so.
That's probably the closest thing to what we love about Phish and the Dead is what they captured in Out of the Blue there.
Yeah.
But let's talk about songs like in the first half. Like what were some of the real standout ones to you?
Fuck, come on.
Fucking all of them? Is that what you're going to say?
I mean, so obviously My Sweet Lord, which My Sweet Lord was one of the few songs that that I was like, oh fuck, I know this song. Yeah, of course you know this song, you fucking dummy, because it was a huge hit.
It was an amazing hit,
and it's such a beautiful song.
It's in movies and stuff for sure.
Yeah.
It's a big pop culture song, definitely.
Yeah.
Probably his most famous song that he didn't write with the Beatles, I would say.
I would say so too. Let It Down.
Let It Down was wild, dude. Yeah.
I loved that fucking track too.
Because that was super contrasting. Because like it started out with this almost like heavy metal kind of breakdown, like helter skeltery kind of feel. I know. And then it goes into like major 7 chords, like jazzy, which is just a really mellow sound on the verse with that characteristic slide guitar tone that he really coined with this record.
Yeah. His slide work on this record is so fucking good.
And it kicks off in My Sweet Lord. That first do, 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 is such an amazing line. It's so good.
I loved Behind That Locked Door. That was kind of a country twanger.
Waltzy countries with for sure.
Yeah, that he
pedal
threw in
steel. There. Great harmonies on that. I 3-starred that one.
I did too.
I love the first track. I love I'd Have You Anytime.
Oh fuck yeah. I put 3 stars next to that.
Yeah.
I loved the lyrics. Like the lyrics were so beautiful. And that's one of the things that when I think about my favorite Beatles tunes that George wrote, that I'd Have You Anytime is cut from the exact same cloth as a Something, right? I mean, just absolutely cut from the exact same cloth. Yeah, lyrically.
Yeah. Musically,
totally different, you know.
Yeah, different, but I mean, cut from the same cloth in terms of quality, you know.
Absolutely.
I
loved Wah Wah too, though. Like Wah Wah was a lot of fun.
It was good placement on the record. It was simplistic, but it was great. It was that one, the Wallace sound really stuck out to me on that because this is Phil Spector produced record.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like this is I'm never gonna give Phil Spector a pass because I really think that you can look at something like Let It Be and realize how fucked Phil Spector could take something really, really pure and beautiful and just really fuck it up with his wall of sound.
Just drown it.
But this to me was a wall of sound that instead of it being a wall of sound of artificial orchestration, this was a wall of sound where he was utilizing a fucking army of spectacular musicians.
Yep, I agree. The wall of sound.
And that's the difference.
It worked for this one on this record more for me than it ever has before. There were a couple tunes where I thought it was too much. Waiting on You All. I liked the tune a lot, but it was too much wall for me. I wrote on that one. It's just a little too much for that.
Yeah.
But it worked really well on Wah-Wah, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And specifically Wah-Wah, there was a really cool guitar. There were some really cool guitar riffs all throughout, but that one had a great riff that started it off. Kind of reminded me of like a more psychedelic version of Day Tripper Beatles tune.
A little bit. I loved Isn't It Pity.
I was going to ask you about that one. What'd you think?
I loved it. I mean, his voice within the setting of the song is what really stood out to me, and the piano too. Like I loved the piano. This
album definitely helped me realize how much I love his vocal contributions to the Beatles, which I know they weren't as numerous as Paul's or John's, obviously, but he has a fantastic voice. It just really has this tenderness to it. And he just kind of, the way he sustains notes, it's not like aggressive at all. His voice is the opposite of aggressive. It's just unassuming, but it's just steady and tender. You know, it's beautiful. He has a great voice.
Yeah.
I love it.
Without question. I mean, so even version 2, right? Take that same song that appears much later in the record. It's a Pity version 2. I actually liked version 2 more than I liked version 1 because it was stripped down.
Yeah, it was a little slower, a little bit more space, less of a driving feel, with kind of a cool instrumental section in the middle.
Yeah. You had a lot of almost crazy, fucking goofy stuff. Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll. I loved that. Put 3 stars next to that motherfucker. The opening of it was fantastic. I loved All Things Must Pass. The title track.
Great
the chorus was just fucking beautiful.
That's exactly what I wrote.
Man, the chorus on that was fucking crazy.
More of his slide guitar on that. I loved I Dig Love. It was like kind of psychedelic, but still like poppy and funky at the same time.
It was a little bit too goofy for me. It was just a little too silly is what I wrote for
it. Was kind of silly,
you know.
Art of Dying was really cool.
Yeah, it was
really, really minor feel.
Was that not my? Did you not hear While My Guitar Gently Weeps on that?
Yeah, no. And what that is that's the harmonies, in my opinion. That's kind of what I wrote down. The vocal harmonies on that are really, really reminiscent of While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Okay. And it's just the minor key harmonies that he does with his voice. They kind of have a characteristic sound. Is what I was thinking. Definitely a lot of wall of sound on that one though, but it worked okay. Hear Me Lord was pretty cool.
Jesus,
dude. You know what I loved about that was on the chorus they had this thing where they just put a hard stop and they sing that line with the choir. It was like above and below us.
Yeah,
that was so cool.
And then just the use of that choral effect, and I couldn't tell if that was like layering or if there was just like this fucking army of musicians that they were having sing behind him.
Yeah,
but either way,
it almost sounded like a gospel choir type of thing.
Yeah,
you know,
the bass too. I fucking loved the bass work on Hear Me Lord.
Yeah,
and the organ. I mean, listen,
loved it all.
It's a long record. It's a long listen.
It takes some time to get through.
You know, this is not a quick chew. But I will tell you, if you have any level of love for what George brought to the Beatles and you haven't done this, God damn it, like, you know, buckle up your chin strap and fucking jump in, because there is so much to be rewarded.
There really is
with this album. I'm quite frankly, so I had never heard this before. I have already added it to digital, as I said at the top of the show. My lovely wife was fortunate enough to find me a vintage copy of this on vinyl. I've already spun it. Like, I spun it before I came over. I'm going to listen to it more tomorrow, and I can't wait to spend more time with this record. I am sorely disappointed at its placement on the list. I can't believe it's
much higher.
Yeah, I can't believe it's this low.
It is. Frankly. It is very low for you know, it just having the significance that it had, and it's almost like another snub of George Harrison. You know, just the
insult to injury almost, right?
Yeah.
Like first it was Paul and John, and now it's cocksucking Rolling Stone.
At least it's higher than Ram. You know what I mean?
I mean, but seriously, right?
As much as I love Paul McCartney, the thing that I don't like about him, and I think I talked about this with Ram, is the whimsicality of it. Like he does this really very English whimsical thing that he does that Paul does on a lot of tunes. It just kind of I don't dig, and there's none of that on this George Harrison record.
No, because he's so sincere.
It feels so real,
Yeah. Like it feels like every song he writes, he's writing it because he genuinely feels what he's writing about.
Yeah.
Unlike Paul, and not to diss Paul, because I love a lot of the stuff that Paul McCartney has done, but especially on fucking Ram. I mean, come on.
I think it was George Harrison that we read a quote from him when we did Ram, and he was like, I honestly don't think it's a good song on the record. Yeah, I agree with you,
well, George. That's because you fucking made an absolute ripping banger at the same time that he was fucking jerking off to sheep.
Yeah.
So, to me, this record should be north of 200.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe north of 150.
Yeah, I mean at the fucking bare minimum. So Rolling Stone, you fucked up. You fucked up on this because it's an absolute masterpiece.
I'm super jealous that you have it on vinyl, and I'm gonna make that happen for myself sometime in the future.
Dude, if I can find you another copy, I will fucking buy it for you because I agree. I want all of my friends to own this on vinyl because everybody deserves absolutely this. Special. And listen, special shout out to Lee Stamper, because Lee Stamper, when he saw that this was coming up, he asked me if I had any familiarity with it. And I told him no, that I'd never listened to it before. And he texted me, he said, dude, you're in for a real treat.
Yeah.
And Lee, you've never been more wrong in your life, because a real treat might be the greatest fucking understatement of the planet.
Yeah.
And you might not know how much I love the George written Beatles songs, but I fucking do. And I can't believe that I went 43 years without having spent so much more time with this record.
Well, I'm glad we both kind of delved into it.
This is going to be, I mean, there's a part of me that wants to say this is really going to be tough to pick out a single song.
It is, but it's got to be My Sweet Lord for me.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
Yeah, for sure.
It will. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So when we get to
this one, it's going to be My Sweet Lord.
But there's a lot of other contenders for sure. And I know why you said that.
Yeah.
But for me, and obviously for you too, it's got to be My Sweet Lord.
It does. It does.
It's going to suck going from this to what we got coming next. While you read this, I'm going to step out real quick.
Yeah, no, go ahead and go pee. And when you're pissing, think about Drake. Yeah, think about Drake. So next, number 367 from 2015, we're going to talk probably very briefly. And I'm half intrigued to take my microphone off of the stand and just take it into the bathroom, so that way you can hear the sound of somebody pissing while we talk about Drake. If you're reading this, it's too late. So Rolling Stone says, just when everyone was ready for more pop sensitivity from Drake, he went street. I don't know why the fuck they said that, but if you're reading this, it's too late was a mixtape for his rap bass. No radio hits or catchy hooks, just his harshest beats and rhymes. It sums up Drake's willingness to switch lanes at any moment. Just a few months later, he swerved back into soft soul territory on Hotline Bling. He spends his money and curses his enemies in paranoid bangers like 10 bands. Okay. Where to begin? There is not a single song on this entire album, which goes like an hour and 6 minutes, or maybe it's an hour and 8 minutes. There wasn't a single song that I put any stars next to. And the idea that Rolling Stone would say there's no radio hits or catchy hooks, just his harshest beats and rhymes. Fuck off. Like, I don't think whoever wrote this didn't fucking listen to this record, because for the first point that I'm going to say is that every single beat on this record is like this soft EDM type of fucking background noise. There's no harsh beats. All right.
There's nothing that could even be remotely considered a harsh beat.
No.
And just like what you said, and it's all way overproduced too.
Well, fuck that. Listen, I don't even give a shit about the production. Rhymes On which fucking song, shithead? Like, there's some rhyming that takes place on Energy, which, oh, by the way, that was a monster radio hit, you fucking twats. Like, that was nothing but a radio hit. I got enemies. Oh, I got some enemies. And they're trying to take away my energy. Like, fuck off. That was a huge radio hit.
It's terrible.
And that was like his stab at a catchy hook. And it wasn't catchy.
His version of a catchy hook is to take a word and just go, oh, and just hold it out like that. He's like trying to take down,
or how about on half of these songs, like the rhymes that he's using is when he ends the fucking line with the exact same word. Like, I don't remember which one it was, the Mama song. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's an entire fucking verse on this goddamn, is that what it is? You
Track
in the 6?
15.
Yeah. Ending every fucking sentence with mama is not a rap. That's lazy as fuck. That's literally what I wrote on here. Oh, and I want to come back to that because he has a song in here where he talks about how he spent time in prison.
Yes, I do remember him mentioning that.
Did you Google that?
No, but he didn't spend time in prison, right?
Because I was like, yo, Drake spent time in prison? So I Googled. I'm going to Google it right now. Drake prison. Fucking Google this. The first thing that comes up is, this is the first response from Google. Drake sentenced to 12 and a half years in prison for raping young child. I was like, whoa.
Wait, are you fucking serious?
What the fuck, dude? Drake was a fucking child rapist?
Did that really happen?
Click on the link, right? I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe this. Drake sentenced to 12 and a half years in prison for raping young child touching another. The picture is of like this weird, creepy looking child rapist white guy. And when you read the story, it's a Zanesville man who earlier last month pleaded no contest to the sexual assaults of 2 minor children was sentenced early Monday morning. Joseph Drake, 38, was given a 12 and a half year sentence by a Muskegum County Court of Commonplace Pleas. Judge Mark, blah, 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 blah.
So it's not Drake.
It's not the rapper Drake.
Right.
Hey, Drake, you might want to fucking get your publicist on the fact that if you're going to be rapping about how you went to prison, and if I Google Drake prison, it pulls up a fucking child rapist, you might want to fix that. You fucking twat.
Yeah, that seems like something they should address ASAP. I hope you're listening to this podcast for your own PR purposes.
The worst fucking publicist on the face of the planet belongs to fucking Drizzy.
That is so funny. Not obviously, that's not. But like the fact that it's Drake and he deserves that shit. So fuck you, Drake. But that is pretty funny, man. I'm glad that you decided to Google that. But throughout it, like he tries to come across as he tries to put up that persona of like you said, he went to prison, and he has several songs that have like gunshots in them and stuff.
Yeah.
And like Drake is notoriously like the least hard rapper alive. Like he's not a thug at all. He didn't really live it. You know?
He was a child movie star.
He was a fucking child movie star.
Yeah.
So it just comes across terribly ironic in a horrible way for him to, for example, start Energy off with a fucking machine gun sound. And when he is just not a fucking thug, you know?
Do you think one of his enemies is Justin Timberlake?
Has to be,
because Justin Timberlake was part of like the Mickey Mouse Club, and so you know,
he's
got a lot of enemies. A lot of enemies.
Exactly, the Disney.
Maybe Selena Gomez. Do you think Selena Gomez
wasn't Drake enemy? On a fucking Disney show?
Yeah.
Well, Degrassi. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It just came to me right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, dude. That was straight from memory too.
Yeah.
I can attest.
I didn't look
everyone on YouTube, he did not look that shit up. That was straight from memory.
Totally. So that's a hard upbringing there. I don't know how he fucking.
You got some memory. You got a lot of memory.
Yeah. Dude. It's just cringeworthy for sure. With to hear him talking about that, and especially on like You and the Six, on the one where he's the the mom one. that
Yeah,
we
the
talked
mama.
about.
Mama.
He's really trying to he's like coming across as hard to his own mother, you
Yeah.
know, and he's like, Mom, you don't want to hear about all this shit. You know, this is
Yeah.
the stuff
He
that
went to prison.
the stuff I have to do. I went to prison, and he's like,
He went to prison
got
for
these
raping
guys,
kids,
and he's
apparently.
these guys try to slit my throat. I take the knife and I stab him in the back. It's like, you never fucking stabbed anybody in your life, Drake, and you never will. You know what I mean? Go back to Degrassi.
Okay.
I don't really want to waste these.
I don't want
people's
to
time,
either.
You know,
I mean, listen, all you have to do if you're even remotely interested in how much time Drake spent in prison, Drake, just Google 2 words. Drake prison.
Yep.
That'll tell you everything you need to know, because apparently this kid likes to touch kids, and he has spent or at least he's been sentenced to 12 and a half years in prison.
And don't even click on the leak. Just like read it and assume it has to do with Drake, and just move on.
Actually, just read it and then go out onto Twitter and Facebook and talk about how hard Drake was and what his sentencing looked like.
So I do want to say one thing real quick, not to
God
spend
damn
much
it.
more time. But it's for you, because you said
Okay.
that you really liked Lil Wayne features. There's a Lil Wayne feature.
I know there was.
on this one.
I know.
What did you
there
think of it?
was.
Did you like Wayne's verse, or that was Used To, track 11?
This is what I wrote. hoping this Lil Wayne feature will make this song decent. There are parts here that are okay from Wheezy, but that beat cheated. That beat created a strange flow. Wheezy couldn't save it. Wheezy couldn't save it for me.
Despite how hard he tried.
He tried.
Yeah.
He tried.
I didn't honestly take a whole lot of notes. Like, this is probably maybe the least notes I've ever taken for a 17 song. I wrote about one line for each song. Didn't even fill one whole page.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Drake, may God have mercy on your soul. Fuck this record.
Dude, honestly, that's one thing I was going to say is, like, if I could play YouTube videos, what I wanted to do was to play the YouTube video from Billy Madison. And maybe I'll just read it off instead, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Because I'm trying to find a quote of it. Okay, so at no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. I was thinking this week, I was like, I would love it if I could simply play that YouTube video,
Just play it,
and then just move on.
Here's the scary thing. I was talking with Sean Smith this morning, friend of the show, and Sean Smith is fairly convinced that we are going to see more Drake as we move through this list.
Yeah, I fucking hope he's wrong.
I hope he's wrong too. And if he's not wrong, I will listen to it and I will try and keep the best open mind that I can. But at this point, this record is fucking god awful. And the idea that this record is above the Lil Wayne record that's only 3 spots removed from Mobb Deep, from Juvenile.
This is above Tupac, dude.
I know.
That's really the only thing that needs said. This is above Tupac.
Yeah, just crazy. Let's move on.
Yes, please. Okay.
Rounding out.
366.
Yes.
Aerosmith, Rocks, 1976. The Bad Boys from Boston perfected their 70s guitar raunch on Rocks. It's the musical equivalent of getting run over by a muscle car. Fuck yeah. Steven Tyler and Joe Perry sounded like America's heirs to the Mick and Keith tradition, with the filthy riffs of Lickin' a Promise and Back in the Saddle. Tyler brings all his dirtbag swagger and gutter poetry. I love those two combinations of words. Dirtbag swagger and gutter poetry to his favorite topic, sex. Surprise peak, Sick as a Dog, an incredible fusion of the Byrds, James Brown funk, and 60s girl group harmonies.
Interesting.
This was super fun for me. Did you like this?
I did. Yeah. I did. It's weird though, because this is typical Aerosmith for me, where you've got to me, you've got 5 songs out of 9 cuts that are really, really good. And then you got a handful of songs that are meh. They're all right. They're still fun, but they're not what I would necessarily want them to be.
There was no song I disliked, but there were, I'm trying to think which 5 you're probably talking about.
Ooh,
Maybe I
yeah.
know.
Let's play that. Predict that. What 5 songs did I really, really enjoy the most?
Back in the Saddle.
Yep.
Last Child.
Yep.
Sick as a Dog.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, my favorite one, and I hope that was not that one, but my favorite one, and I hope this is one of yours. Get the Let Out.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I loved that song. That was
Did
my
you really?
favorite one on the whole record.
Oh, it wasn't my favorite one on the whole record. My favorite one on the whole record is Last Child. Really? You like Get the Let Out more
That
than
was my
Last
second
Child?
favorite, but Get the Let Out is fantastic. That's the one that I was talking to you about before we started the show. Super badass guitar riff. Just really, really like peak Aerosmith in my opinion at this time.
The outro was my favorite part of that, actually.
Of Get the Let Out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The outro was fucking dope.
I was just banging my head the whole time.
I love Nobody's Fault.
What about Licking a Promise? Was that your other one?
No.
No? Was
No.
it?
It was Home Tonight, actually.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
Home Tonight. So tell me this. Wasn't Home Tonight, that was like what Aerosmith became the most famous for in the 90s, right? Because that was like their big power ballad.
That's what I wrote. Borderline power ballad, but
Not
it's a little
borderline.
bit too heavy for it, maybe.
So this to me is like, this is like the early lineage of that, right? This is the caveman version of what would become, I don't want to close my eyes, right?
I don't want to fall asleep.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But this is like the nascent caveman version of that.
Yeah, no,
And
you're
I
not
loved
wrong
it for
about that
that.
at all. It was great. It was really, really good. Fantastic closer. Super crazy guitar solo at the end of that.
Yes.
Like the guitar work throughout was really, really good. That's one thing I want to talk about.
How about the bass work though? Before we go to Joe Perry, because Joe Perry has gotten so many accolades and he deserves them all.
Really, really good.
But goddamn, dude, like Tom Hamilton on his bass work.
There's even a Steven Tyler bass track.
Fuck you, really?
Sick as a Dog. Steven Tyler plays the bass on that.
No way.
Yeah, he did. I'm Sick as a Dog for sure.
What the fuck did Tom Hamilton do?
Yeah, I don't know.
Was he jerking
He's
off?
probably just jerking off in the corner. I was about to say.
That son of a bitch.
Yeah. This has like the parts that I like of hair metal without the rest of it. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yes.
it's almost hair metal-y to me. And the other thing that I want to talk about, it's not just specific to guitar, but it has to do with that, is kind of the guitar style, but it's backed up by everything else. It's a lot of this palm muty, quick riffing kind of stuff that, like, in my opinion, is almost like a bridge between classic rock and like thrash metal.
Yes.
Like specifically, I was hearing it in the very beginning, like the.
Are you saying that because of the palm? The palm muting is what gives you the hearken to
the palm
thrash.
muting, but also just like not even just the palm muting though, like the quick style, the quick like staccato palm mutes, and the way that he kind of bounces around notes, but the way that it's backed up by the drums and the bass, it almost sounds like a bridge between classic rock and thrash metal. And this is definitely hard rock. It's heavy metal.
No, it's not heavy metal. It's hard
It's
rock.
classified as heavy metal.
Fuck off. By who?
Wikipedia.
Oh, fuck Wikipedia. They're morons. Back in the Saddle is hard
That's
rock.
everybody, dude. That's the hive mind. You're saying everybody is morons?
So is Last Child. So Last Child is a fucking hardcore heavy metal track.
That's basically Slayer. Yeah. No, so that's probably the furthest, but yeah, if you go to Wikipedia though, genre hard rock, secondarily heavy metal is what this record is considered.
All right. I'm not going to argue over it because ultimately it's good. The only knock that I have on this entire record is just that it's kind of typical of the decade and typical of the genre, where you have an A side and a B side, right? And I've picked out songs on what I would call a B side because I'm pretty sure Nobody's Fault would be the first track on the B side, and that's why I think it stood out to me as such a strong track. And then you also had Home Tonight, which was the precursor to the power ballad. But realistically, all of these albums that you saw from hard rock or rock bands in the 70s were cursed with the same thing, and that's that you had 3 to 5 really fucking banger songs that were just absolutely spectacular, and then you had
filler.
and then you had filler shit, And I don't hate it because everybody was doing the same thing. And quite frankly, the songs that are really, really good make it worthy of this list, particularly Back in the Saddle Again and Last Child. Even with just those two songs, I don't think you would be able to leave this on the list. If those were the only two songs, maybe you'd have to move it down. But those two songs in and of themselves are part of the encyclopedia of fucking rock at this point.
Definitely. You should listen back to Get the Lead Out, though.
All right.
That's a badass tune.
I will.
I really loved it.
I will. Slash. This is one of those records that I read a quote from Slash saying that, you know, when he heard Back in the Saddle and Last Child, and he specifically pointed out Last Child, he knew that he wanted to become a rock and roll guitar player. And that's what I think about.
It was, even like on Wikipedia, they're talking about how this album in particular was a heavy influence on Guns N' Roses, but also Metallica and Nirvana even.
Dude, Nirvana. That's kind of shocking.
It is.
But then Licking a Promise, like you talk about that, you know, and even Rolling Stone talks about how Steven Tyler's fucking, like, he's got that fucking dirty swagger that he brings towards talking about sex. And yeah, it's typical.
So is he talking about himself on that one?
Yeah.
Because he's like talking about someone in the third person.
Yeah.
But
he's
it must
talking
be
about
just
himself.
talking about himself. Yeah.
Of course.
Gives him a lick and a promise.
That's right. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
He gives those girls a lick and a promise, and that's all he needs to do.
Yep.
What do you do with this? Do you like the placement of it? I'm okay with the placement of it.
Yeah, I don't want to see it drop down, but I don't feel strongly about lifting it up either, you know.
Okay, so we talked about this before the show, and I want to bring it up again on air because I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have. We're going to see at least 2 more Aerosmith albums.
Yes.
Toys in the Attic, because you have Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion. And then you have to see the debut from Aerosmith because that has Dream On. And you
does have Dream On.
You can't leave either of those albums on this list. So where do they appear relative to this one? And should they be higher than this one?
Because your thoughts were you don't see them being too much higher. So you're expecting that we're going to see these 2 albums in the next 100 at least, right?
Yeah,
I
would think so.
Yeah, man.
I would think so. At least Toys in the Attic, because Toys in the Attic, you have to have that album on this list because Sweet Emotion is probably my favorite Aerosmith song, but that's because the bass line on that song is, come on, it's a bass player's wet dream, right?
It is. And Sweet Emotion was just a huge fucking song. So
Monster.
Like, that almost makes me think that one is going to be one of the highest because of Sweet Emotion. But then you have Dream On, but Sweet Emotion was just as big, I would say.
Well, Sweet Emotion, I think, was a better showcase for the entire band. Dream On, though, is lyrically and vocally one of the craziest fucking songs ever recorded.
It's an adventure. Yeah.
That's like, that's Freddie Mercury level shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously, right? It's theatrical in nature, but it is supreme fucking talent.
You just had me thinking in my head about like if Freddie Mercury were to cover Dream On. That would have been incredible.
Game changing.
Yeah.
Game changing fucking maneuver right there.
So I bet the eponymous one is top 200. And I bet the other one we see in the next 50.
Wow, really? So you think Toys in the Attic appears before 300, but you think the self-titled appears in the top 200?
But I don't want to bet. I'm overextended as it is.
So, you are pretty overextended at this point in time with our wagers.
Yes.
So, I like it. What
do you think?
I actually think Toys in the Attic might surpass the eponymous title, the self-titled.
Yeah, could be.
Because on that self-titled, yes, you have Dream On there, and I do think that Dream On is spectacular, particularly with what Steven Tyler does vocally. And I mean, listen, the guitar work, right? Like what he does vocally almost overshadows what Joe Perry is doing. Shamefully so, you know, because what Joe Perry does with Dream On is really, really special. But I genuinely believe that Toys in the Attic is probably a better record. And they're self-titled.
And so, like I was saying earlier, like I think that just because of Sweet Emotion, but just the fact that this self-titled came out earlier, thus maybe had more influence. I mean,
possibly.
Just the time value, I guess, there.
Maybe. You know what? Time will tell. We'll figure it out. So let's talk about our project to be had.
Yep.
Right. Because we're through our list for this week. And before we preview what we're going to jump into next week, we do have a little bit of an announcement. And this was
listener idea. Yep.
Yeah,
Mr. Derek Danielson. He gave us this idea that he said, hey, you guys should make a Spotify playlist, or not necessarily just specifically Spotify, but just a playlist of the albums or of the top song in your guys' opinion from each album. So
yeah,
Mike and I are going to go through.
Beautiful idea, by the way.
It's a great idea. Thanks, Derek. We're going to go through and we're going to decide retroactively which song between the two of us we vote on as being the best song of each album.
Yeah.
And we're going to put it out on a playlist. And Mike thinks that we should do it 25 at a time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea.
Because a playlist of 25 songs, that's a pretty fucking long playlist. Right?
Yep, it is.
Like that's a couple of hours worth of material. And so JB's idea was, let's hash this shit out on air via a bonus episode.
Yep.
And I love that too, because it could be a deal where we get through it real quick.
And maybe we argue a lot.
And maybe we argue a lot. I mean, I could definitely see a little bit of confrontation depending on the album. But we're gonna start that. We'll start that next week.
Where we'll do our first one next week.
Yeah, we'll go through 500 through 475, and we'll pick out our top 25 songs. And we're only gonna pick one song from each record that we listen to.
Yep.
Out of those 25. And you know what? I'm going to tell you this right now. When we get to 375 through 350, I guess I'm going to pick fucking Jesus.
Which one was that on?
I don't even know what fucking Drake song I'm going to pick to fucking go into that. You know what? Actually, I take that back. 6 p.m. in New York. That's what I'm gonna vie for when we get to this cocksucker. I'm gonna say 6 p.m. in New York, because
I'm gonna argue that we potentially just leave that off.
It was a multi-pronged diss track that 6 p.m. in New York was, and I actually felt like there may have been some harsh rhymes. There definitely weren't any harsh beats. There were no fucking harsh beats on this entire record. You piece of shit, Rolling Stone.
Fuck you, Rolling Stone.
There were some harsh rhymes, so maybe I'll probably vie for 6 p.m. in New York from Drake.
I'll probably vie that we just leave it off, because I don't want to subject our listeners to that kind of bullshit.
Next week.
We do have a special guest coming next week.
Absolutely.
It's almost weird that we didn't have one this week.
I know. The last couple of weeks. But listen. Huggy.
It's good to get back.
I know. It's good to get back to the roots.
And we're going to have plenty of those coming up that are just the two of us.
Yeah.
But it was weird because it had been so long.
Long. Dude, we did so many guests in a row.
5 or 6, I think.
And it was fun. Like, thank you to everybody that joined us remotely here. And we're not going to be that far removed, because early June Justin Handel's going to be back, and he's going to be in person that time, which we're super excited about. I can't wait to see him in person.
Literally, while we're here in the podcast, I got that confirmation that he booked his flights. He's going to be here the weekend of June 3rd through the 6th, and he's going to be a guest on the podcast for that week.
Fucking rad.
So
we're gonna do that shit up right too. Like,
yes,
if anybody that lives in Des Moines knows, like, we're before the podcast that night, we're gonna do 801 Chop. Like, we're gonna go engorge ourselves with delicious fucking steak and wine and cocktails, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do a fantastic podcast with Justin. It'll be fun.
Maybe we'll have too many cocktails and forget to do the podcast. Let's hope that we don't.
Yeah, I hope not.
But yeah, so Justin Handel is coming up. Look forward to that. But next week we have Mr. Bryce Wagner coming on the podcast.
Absolutely.
He is actually, I play in a band with Bryce, and he's
Blue Earth.
A very, very good friend of mine, and he's a listener of the podcast. So I'm excited to have him on here.
And he's a fucking phenomenal bass player.
He's fantastic. Yep.
One after my own heart.
Yep. And
love him.
He requested this week specifically. He's excited about a couple records on it. So,
which is exciting. So next week with Bryce, we're going to be talking about number 365 from 2004, the album Mad Villainy from Mad Villain.
364 is Talking Heads, more songs about buildings and food. What a title.
Fuck yeah. 363. We're going to be doing the Mothership Connection from Parliament. That fucking rips.
362 is Luther Vandross. Never Too Much. Not familiar at all. Are you?
None whatsoever. Do you think Bryce is familiar?
He's not. I already asked him.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll be a surprise for all of us. And lastly, next week, we're going to be talking about number 361, The Black Parade from My Chemical Romance from 2006.
Do you know that one?
Dude, I know the radio hits, right? So I know The Black Parade, but that's it.
You probably know Teenagers too. Teenagers scare the living shit out of me. That was a big radio hit too.
You know what's funny is that so I was talking with Mikey about this because Mikey was growing up. So Mikey's my oldest son, and Mikey was talking about how him and his best friend Ryan were huge fans of this record, and he's super excited for me to dig into this because he knows that I haven't spent much time with it. And Teenagers was a song that he specifically referenced. He was like, dude, that song's really great, Dad. You're gonna love it.
It's a good tune. So I was really, really into this band, the album before, which was called 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge.
Okay.
And then by the time this one came out, I had kind of moved on personally, which again, this is a great album. So it's probably a fault of mine, but I wasn't listening as much to My Chemical Romance at that point. But I did listen to it, and this is a good album. I think you're going to have fun with it. It's definitely maybe the most like pop punky stuff we've had thus far.
I mean,
except
outside
for
of
Green
Dookie.
Day.
Yeah, outside
Yeah.
of Dookie. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's almost like it's emo, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like emo pop punk. So it's definitely the only emo record we've had so far. Right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything emo.
There's some good tunes on it. I do like the 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge more. And there were a lot of really, really popular tunes on that, but I don't think it's going to show up on the record, on the list here. So,
Probably not.
yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming this is the only My Chemical Romance that we see, honestly.
It has to be. Yeah.
But be sure to tune in for that. That'll be awesome to have Bryce around, and it'll be fun to bring a guest back in again. And
That'll be next Friday. We'll be on time. We promise.
I mean, on time with, listen, plus or minus 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
definitely
as
like,
on time as we're fucking getting.
by on time, we mean it's going to be there by the next day, you know? So
Yeah.
don't expect, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're doing a mail route, it's okay. We'll be there for you. If you're going to clean your house or something, it's okay. We'll be there for you.
But if you're sitting in front of your TV with YouTube up, waiting for us to live stream, settle in.
There-
Get some popcorn or something, because it could be a late one.
If you might wait a few minutes. All right. All that being said, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. We'll
Mhm.
see you next week.
We'll
we
see
love
you
you.
next week. Bye-bye.
This list sucks. This list sucks. This list sucks. This list sucks. It sucks.